Welcome to our I Am Workshop Conversation Series, a transformative journey designed to inspire self discovery and ignite your creative spirit. With your hosts, Anna Maria Davalos, Maria Lanas, and Maclovia Martel. Today's guest is Christina Korp. She's known as the Astronaut Wrangler. She is an astronaut manager, space advisor, founder of Space for a Better World, and the president of Purpose Entertainment. For 10 years, she managed Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin and launched his foundations. She currently launched the Aim Higher project with her partner in purpose, astronaut Nicole Stott. Christina, welcome to our show. Thank you for
Thank you for
being
having
here.
me.
Welcome, Christina.
Christina, can you tell us about a transformative experience that has shaped your life into who you are today?
I've had several, but going to work for Buzz Aldrin was not the plan for my life. I was a singer for a long time. I ran a small media company in Los Angeles. I used to tour all over the world singing in Spanish, of all things. I
Oh,
don't
in
speak Spanish
Spanish.
that well.
Wow.
Yeah. I sang for some pretty major Latin artists, mostly Mexican artists, but I also sang on Ringo Starr records. And
Wow.
then I went to work for I'm sorry, an American celebrity named John Tesh, and I loved doing that. But then I needed a break. And the break was answering an ad in the Hollywood Reporter magazine for Buzz Aldrin. And I never thought I would be working with astronauts in a billion years. And people would always ask me, how did you get this job? And I said, I answered an ad in the Hollywood Reporter. And, and it wasn't a blind ad. It said, and for me, it was a step down. It was to go to be the executive assistant to Buzz Aldrin. And I had been running a company. And so I thought, this is perfect. I just need this quiet, boring job for a little while. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into and what it has
Little
led
did
me
you
to
know.
now. No. Yeah, and now as I say, that was almost 18 years ago. And it changed my life in a way that I never in a billion years could have predicted and led me to the purpose that I have now.
Mm-hmm.
And how was it working with Buzz Aldrin?
You know, when I first met him, he was like a sweet little old man, but then I learned very quickly that he was a bull in a china shop.
Ooh.
And he is a very technical man, and he wasn't very good at explaining his vision for the future to people. And all anybody ever wanted to talk to him about was walking on the moon, him
Mm.
walking on the moon. And so for me, what I thought would be a 1 year, maybe 1 year job of handling the appearances for an icon, I realized, wow, maybe I could try to learn how to translate for him to people because I had to hear it every day. I had to hear him talk about things every day. And it was quite an education. I mean, it got to the point maybe about, 8 years in where I wrote one of his technical speeches. And even he said, you could get a PhD with this. And so it was a real education that I wasn't looking for, I wasn't expecting. And but I'm very grateful for, and it's now I'm kind of, the kind of person who can translate space to people outside of space in a way that's way more accessible and not too technical. But I can understand when I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
room full of technical people, I understand exactly what they're talking about, what they're doing now. But I don't explain it the way they do. I simplify it. And that is a gift that Buzz Aldrin gave me that was a real surprise for me.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. One question, Christina, you talk about purpose. What would be the definition for purpose that what you have right now?
My purpose is to inspire and
Mm-hmm.
educate people, to believe that they can do something maybe they didn't think was possible for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I came from a very humble background. And so I always say to people, you can never predict the way that I started. And one of 10 children in a very poor family in South Dakota to going all over the world with men who walked on the moon. And
Mm-hmm.
so this example though, of like something like my life, I try to tell people it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter, how you
Mm-hmm.
started. I'm living proof that
Mm-hmm.
you can go on to do something incredible and meet incredible people. I mean, some of the people I've met, it doesn't even sound real. Like, but I have the photographic proof of all of it. And, so for me, what I realized is, I've gotten to do extraordinary things, and maybe I can help light the spark of
Mhm.
belief in someone who was like me, or maybe someone who didn't believe that they could do something, and maybe now they can because they hear my story and they say, wow, she came from this and now she's done this. Maybe I can do this. And so
Mhm.
for me, my purpose, I do lots of big projects all over the world, but my purpose really is to inspire. I think that's, to inspire people to believe in themselves and to
Yeah.
not limit
And
themselves. Yeah.
and inspire you do, Christina, because I've been lucky enough to work with you and seen you in action. And what has always inspired me really is how focused you are. And
Mm.
I love, for example, to hear the stories of how you started when you were little with your family. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your heritage? Because to me, that's inspiring.
Yeah, well, so my mom was one of 8 children, and she's half Mexican, half Sioux Indian, Native American, and grew up in a very humble family. My father is from Milwaukee, and he was in the Air Force, and that's how he met my mom. So, we didn't ever have much, growing up, but we were very musical. And so we all could sing, and when I was 12 years old, actually before that, but when I was 12 years old, we had a family band, and my brother was 10 years old on drums, me on keyboards at age 12. My sister was 16 on bass, and our dad on lead guitar. And that's how we supported our family, like the real life Partridge Family. We were
Wow.
playing almost every night. When I tell people I was in a family band, I know they think it was a hobby, but I literally was in the bar every night starting at 9 p.m. We got done playing at 1:30 in the morning, and I had to get up and go to school every day. And that's how we supported our family. And so I didn't have a typical even kid, you know,
Yeah.
bringing up. It was very, very unusual, and I'm grateful for it. I didn't get to do a lot of the things that a lot of kids did, but at the same time, I had this kind of crazy adventure
Was that
that
was
Mhm.
that stressful for you though as a kid to do that?
You know, we loved it because we got to sing every night, we got
Yeah.
to play instruments and music every night. But yeah, I mean, I suppose there was a point where we realized that the whole family relied on us
Mhm.
to support our livelihood where we lived, the food we had.
Hmm.
Like I never had a new piece of clothing until I was in the band and I bought it for
Mhm.
myself,
Mhm.
So it's funny. I mean, there were times, sure, it felt a little bit stressful, but it was also just my reality.
Mhm.
And and by the way, I mean, there's 10 kids, remember, in this family. So I did it for 10 years and I wanted more. I just didn't want to keep playing in bars every night in the Midwest forever. And so
Hmm.
I left the band, which was a big step. And one of my little sisters took my place in the band, my sister Margie, who
Yeah.
lollied us. And she was 16 when she took my place in the band. I was 22. And I left and I drove to Los Angeles and I had $250 and my
Wow.
car and my clothes and nothing else and just big dreams and I have to tell you the family was not supportive. They were like, "You think you're better? You're a nice person that you're going to go there and that city is going to chew you up and spit you out. You'll be back in a year." And I never went back. And I think I've had this foolish optimism that I still have in
You
a lot of ways.
do. It's not foolish. I mean, it's powerful. To me, I
Well,
think
it's manifesting, right? I mean, we've been talking about manifestation, and it's I think some people do it unconsciously, and I think that's what Christina has done. Some people try to manifest, but they can't. But she's just did it with her maybe her positive thinking. I mean, do you think you were positive and you just believed in yourself?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, and it's probably because I was in this band. I remember when I answered the ad for Buzz Aldrin, I looked at this and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be a piece of cake." That's what I thought. And a lot of people, I know that when I would talk to people, they're like, "Oh my God, I would have been too intimidated." And I was like, "To me, old man, this is gonna be easy." Managing an old dude who walked on the moon. So I suppose, maybe I don't talk myself out of or think about it too hard in a way too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a mom now, so now I worry, but I was telling someone I've never been a worrier, and I've been willing to go and try and fail.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's something that people, they're so worried about failing that they don't even try.
You
I'm
have to
willing to go
fail.
and
Yeah.
fall on my face. Yeah.
were
We
your
only learn
parents
from failure.
were,
That's part of life. Yeah.
were
Yeah.
your parents more worried about you, or were they more concerned that you left the circle?
My mom at the time, because we were really close, she was like, "You abandoned me." I said, "You have 9 other children." You know, I just wanted to be out in the world, and live my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we were poor, and our grandma that was in Wisconsin, she had this crazy, funny, goofy, personality, and she was very poor, always worked in a factory, but always had a pretty good attitude. And
Mm-hmm.
I really credit her a lot with that. Like
Mm-hmm.
Wally has said, she's seen me in action. I'm quite silly half the time, and I get that from my grandma. But she never got to go anywhere. Like not really. She got to go on a few trips in her life, and she was so proud of me for being willing to go and jump into situations. Now, and I will tell you, when I was singing in Mexico, there was some times that I'm very lucky nothing happened to me because I was so optimistic and so foolishly optimistic in those times. It didn't even occur to me anything bad could happen to me. But
Mm-hmm.
now when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have a heart attack if my daughter went and did the things that I did. And I don't mean
Yeah.
I wasn't a partier. I didn't even drink alcohol at all until I was 27. So it wasn't that. It's just I went to Mexico during the time where you didn't even need your passport. You just needed your
Yeah. You
driver's
just
license.
crossed it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I sometimes was in the heart of Mexico. Nobody knew where I was. I had no cell phone, no way to call anyone. And even I kind of marvel at it now, like I'm lucky nothing happened. And I have to tell you, so my family didn't really know. And my sisters even were like, "What?" They didn't like people didn't know what I was doing. And I think, I don't think my parents were worried about me, honestly, because they had 9 other children to worry about. So, and some of the siblings have had a lot of problems. So that kind of became the focus, kind of more the ones who had problems than me going off out in the world, even though I was the only one who was gone. So,
Mm-hmm. You said your mother is half Mexican and half Native American.
yeah.
Was
She has
there?
a little bit of Scottish in her, which she holds on to tightly, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. But
Mm-hmm.
Because my
um,
Glovia's mom is also Mexican.
My mom's
Yeah.
from Mexico City, but my
yeah, my
Spanish is
grandfather was
terrible.
from Mexico. Yeah.
Was there some on your mother's side? Was there some type of spirituality, being Native American, or was she more religious, or was it nothing? Was it?
I would say we had a mix of heritage of Native American and Mexican. I mean, my grandmother was the Native American one, and so she taught us
Wow.
native songs. I know native words. We're Oglala Sioux. I used to dance in powwows when I was a
Wow.
kid.
Oh,
I
that's
wanted
beautiful.
to look more native. I wanted my hair to be darker.
I
I
love
wanted
it.
to really
Yeah.
look more like Pocahontas when I was little. And my mom is quite dark. And then my grandma really kind of embraced the Mexican heritage. So she made homemade tortillas and she made menudo, which I hate. I don't like menudo.
Mm.
But she made a lot of things that, so going to spirituality, I mean, they were not really very religious. And my dad is the one who became like a devout Catholic. And then
Mm.
my mom converted to Catholicism. My dad's still a devout Catholic, and now I joke that I'm a recovering Catholic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say that we went to private Catholic school growing up. And by the way, we couldn't afford it. We had an anonymous benefactor in our church who paid for 5 of us to go to
Wow.
private
Wow.
Catholic.
Amazing. Amazing.
And
Yeah.
was your father hurt that you left, or was he?
Yeah, because what happened first was my brother bought our sister and my dad, the one on base, they had a big fight. She left the band. So we just replaced her, and which she was shocked about because her and my dad had a lot of fights. And that's the thing too. At that point, she was the star of the show.
Mhm.
And that's kind of a transformative time, I guess I could say too, because she was 16, I was 12, but by the time she left the band, I was 18 or 19. And so she left the band, and all of a sudden, my dad made me be the focus of the band, which was
Mhm.
very uncomfortable to be the center, to be the one everyone was looking at, to have to be the one to speak on the mic and talk to the crowd and
You were
all
the
of that.
leader, yeah.
Yeah,
But you
Yeah,
know what?
that
That
was the
may have
point.
prepped you for
Yeah,
Buzz
that
Aldrin,
prepped
and
you.
yeah.
yeah, because I was very comfortable on the side, like being
Mhm.
on stage, but being on the side, not being the star of the
On
show.
the backstage, yeah.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did you meet Nicole?
So, when you work with Buzz Aldrin, you meet lots of astronauts because, of
Mm-hmm.
course, the Apollo guys and the moonwalkers are the top of the top. And I mean, so even working with Buzz and Neil Armstrong, and I mean, my reality for a long time was working with the Apollo astronauts. But you meet a lot of astronauts along the way. And so Nicole and I were aware of each other. I became aware of her because she's really active out there. She retired from NASA and then she was doing lots of inspirational type things. And I was already doing some of that with Buzz's Foundation because then that's when I realized at one point he had said to me, "How am I going to ensure my legacy lives on?" And I'm like, "Through the kids." For kids to remember who you are and what you did. And so I really devoted myself to creating educational tools for kids and using
Mm-hmm.
creativity. So then I became aware of Nicole, and our friendship really solidified in the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 because I asked her if she would come to an event I was doing in Times Square in New York City on the
Mm-hmm.
50th anniversary, the actual 50th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And so she got to New York, and unfortunately, because I was going to put a moonscape on the ground in Times Square so people could walk on the moon in Times Square, and it was like a
Mm-hmm.
mosaic of the boot print on the moon. And unfortunately, it was 115 degrees. So
Oh my God.
the city of New York canceled my permit. And some people would just pack up and go home. And I was sitting there like with my team get when I got the news that they were gonna not let us set up outside because Nicole came, there was another astronaut, Nicole Stott with Winston Scott, who were gonna meet kids from the New York Department of Education summer school program.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the reason that's important because that's what solidified my friendship with Nicole was because when they canceled our permit, I decided we were in the Marriott Marquis, and I said, you know what, we're going to move inside. We'll move in the ballroom. So I moved everything in the ballroom because I was like, these kids have been making their moon and Mars, bases. Like some people would just pack up and go home, but I was like, no, all these kids have been making their moon and Mars bases. Like the astronauts are here. We're here. Let's go. And that was when, so we pulled it off. We moved everything inside. And Nicole, I remember she came over. She's like, "You and I are going to be friends." And it was because she could see that it wasn't just about the glory of Times Square. It was,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to do Times Square because, like we do now in Piccadilly and other places, where we're trying to hopefully capture someone who might never get to see this
Mhm.
kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But ultimately, though, if I just reach one kid,
Yeah.
that kid could change the world. And that's something that we share. We share with Lolly too, it's
Yeah.
this. And so Nicole, it was that moment that Nicole and I, like, we recognized this within each other. And then we started talking about doing more projects. And then she had founded the Space for Art Foundation with Lolly. And then I started like a couple of years later. I was doing so much and I started doing these giant artworks. And Nicole and a couple of the other astronauts are like, you need to start your own foundation. Like you're killing yourself by doing all this stuff. Like you need to have a formal,
Mhm.
organization. So I started Space for a Better World. And I am the founder. It's my own thing. But
Mm-hmm.
frankly, Nicole has become like almost an equal partner in it with me too. So she's like co-founders almost like of both of these foundations now. So, and I'm so grateful because we recognize in each other. And I think when you find people like
Yeah.
this, it's really special and really valuable and joined
Mm-hmm.
in purpose in a way from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
I bet those
Totally.
kids enjoyed having you move it from outside in 115-degree weather into an air conditioned hotel.
Yep, yep, I think so too. And we
It
had
all worked
volunteers
out.
outside going, come in the air conditioning and walk on the moon.
Yes, yes, yes.
Another story that you have to tell because I love Christina is your aim higher of the
Mm.
lady. How did you
Yeah,
come up with
so
that?
aim higher this, and I don't always get to tell this story, but it came out of a moon landing memory. So, of course, being with Buzz Aldrin, everywhere we went, everywhere, all over the world, people would tell us their moon landing memories every single day. And I
Mhm.
have to tell you, like 98% of them are men. And so, this one time, it was these two sisters who had hired Buzz to give a keynote speech at a leadership conference in Nashville. And so it was breakfast time, and they were like, "Oh no, we got you. We can tell you our moon landing memory." And he was eating his yogurt, and he heard these all the time, but he wasn't always paying attention because he'd heard so many of them. And even I wish I had recorded them. I took some pictures, but anyway, so these two sisters were saying we were young girls in a village in Turkey. Our
Mm.
mother couldn't read or write. Our father had a fifth grade education, but he was really passionate about Apollo and read about it in the
Mhm.
newspaper. And so the he had saved up to buy a Grundig radio. And so the night that Apollo 11 was going to land on the moon, everyone from our village and our surrounding areas came to listen to the moon landing on the radio. They said, when we heard that you succeeded, we felt like we did it. And everyone was hugging and cheering and crying and jumping up and down and proud, that humans had achieved this impossible thing. And then they said, when everyone calmed down, they went outside and they sat on the grass and they could see the moon and they were looking at the moon. And these girls, these sisters were like 12 years old and 8 years old. And I said, well, what were you thinking? And they said, we realized we could aim higher for our dreams. Humans were on the moon. Like our big leap was from our parents was to graduate high school and we were going to become teachers in our village. But we realized, wow, we don't need to limit ourselves. We could aim higher than that
Mhm.
because humans did this impossible thing. And so the older sister went on to get her PhD in quantum physics, and the younger sister got her MBA. And then they said, and now we've hired you for our leadership conference. Our father would be beside himself that the man who launched our dreams, the man on the moon, that we actually got to meet you and have you. And I was like crying hearing this story because I just thought,
It's
I
the
maybe
synchronicities. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up quite as humbly as they did, but I grew up from a very humble background, and you could not, I was of the kind of like place where I would say, people would say, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I'm going to travel all over the world." And I remember being 8 years old and my uncle like patting me on the head and saying, "Nice to dream, little girl. That ain't going to
Yeah,
happen for you." And thankfully, in my little stubborn head, I was like, "He doesn't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it,"
you're
you
gonna do
know.
it. I'm gonna
And thankfully, I
manifest it.
had
Yeah.
that spark. But I think what that did for those girls, like this realization that humans landed on the moon, did this impossible thing, lit the spark that they
Mhm.
Yeah.
believed that they could do more.
Mhm.
So that's why it's aim higher for your dreams, aim higher regardless of where you started or what your circumstances are, because it's amazing what you can do when you don't
Mhm.
limit yourself.
I love the name.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a
Yeah, because,
child, you
you know,
don't under, you just think, I'm going to travel the world. You don't think of anything else. Just point A, point B. You don't think of everything in between. And so it's easier. You
No,
don't
you
know
don't
all
see
those things that are
obstacles
in
at that. I
between.
mean, it's just I'm gonna do it. I mean, it's
well,
Children,
I will
children,
tell you, at the time,
pure.
I thought my two options were going to be marry an Air Force guy or become a rock star. Those were my two options.
yeah,
So,
in the same town, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah. But now you're living your childhood dream.
Well, I mean, there was a point when I used to tour that I thought that I realized I don't want to be a star. I don't want to be a rock star because it's harder work than people think it is. Like when I was on tour and I was singing and I remember I was just a background singer and just in Brazil and just trying to leave the hotel. I couldn't leave to go to dinner. Like, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is not like a reality that I want.
Yeah.
I'm too normal of a person. I want to
Mhm.
be able to have a normal life.
You're
So I
kind of in
decided to
prison.
like go to the behind the scenes and do
Mhm.
stuff like what I did for Buzz and for other people. But at the same time, I will say, sometimes when I'm with the astronauts and then people hear my story, they'll come over to me and say, you know what, I can relate to your story more because I feel like I could do what you're doing. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
feels more realistic than becoming an astronaut,
And
and I
people
do think,
connect more to those kind of stories. Yeah, that the typical celebrity, they want to see somebody like them to connect and say, "Hey, she did it. I can do it." Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think even though I get to do extraordinary things, it feels more reachable, it feels
Mhm.
more you know. That being said, I will say I do think that when they meet the astronauts, especially like Nicole, that it does make them think maybe I could be an astronaut,
Yeah.
you know. And
Well,
even she didn't think she was going to be an astronaut. It's not like she grew up her whole life thinking she was going to be an astronaut, you know. And that's the other thing I like to tell people who are adults, even like you don't have to have it all figured out.
Hmm.
And you can change your mind too, by the way. You know,
Hmm.
yeah.
a lot of people go and they go get a degree and they go off and do something that they hate, and then they think they're stuck and they got to do that for the rest
Hmm.
of their lives. And I'm like, you know, you can't. I never thought I'd be working with astronauts. Like, I know I went about it in a different way, but you can try other things, you
Yeah.
know, and see what you want to do.
Nowadays, you have more options than just NASA.
Yeah, you don't
I mean,
have to even work for
SpaceX,
NASA at
Blue
all. Yeah.
Origin. I mean, there's more options, I think. So it's more it's more in your face now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a
Um,
lot of competition in
a
that.
lot, well,
So
yeah, competition. So from Buzz, did you go straight to working with Nicole, or did you have some other?
Well, the pandemic happened.
Mm,
And you know, that kind of like put everybody's plans on hold, including like Nicole's and the
Everybody's, yeah.
astronauts. Yeah, there
mm-hmm,
was only so much that anybody could do because, you know, someone like Nicole, after they retire from NASA, they either go to work for an aerospace company or they do appearances.
yeah.
And so the ones who do appearances, it was dead as a doornail too for them. You know, we were talking about some things during that time, and then I decided to do zero gravity flight. Again, one of these
Oh,
crazy
please tell them what is the
things.
zero
What
gravity.
is the
Seems like
zero gravity? Yeah, I was going to ask that right now.
They're called parabolic flights, and what it means is
Uh-huh.
an airplane kind of flies at this really steep incline, and then it goes over a hump, and then it comes back down, and it keeps doing this over and over and over.
Hmm.
And so when it comes over and flies over this, it gives you like about 20 to 30 seconds of weightlessness each time, and it feels like so you're floating, and you can turn around, you can like as if you're in space. And so anybody can do these. There's a couple companies that you can go and buy a spot. But then I started curating like special flights to do it with astronauts like Nicole, like
Mm.
our friend Charlie Duke, who's the 10th man to walk on the moon. And I did it kind of again foolishly optimistically. I started asking people, hey, anybody want to go on a zero gravity flight? You know, and started selling the spots, and then I did
Mm.
it. And so now I've done it 5 times.
wow.
Mm.
And it's super fun. But so Nicole started doing more stuff like that with me, and then we went to somebody, you know, offered me a yacht to Antarctica, and and then I had Nicole be the astronaut that escorted that family to, you know, so we've really traveled all over the world together. And I just, you know, because people know I do kind of crazy things, they just offer crazy things to me sometimes too. So I took Buzz to the South Pole. That was a big dream of his. That was the last big thing on his bucket list, and I made it happen. And unfortunately, he got sick in high altitude pulmonary edema, and we were evacuated from the South Pole too. So that's a
Ooh,
whole other adventure
yeah.
altogether. But now I do most of my stuff with Nicole. I do work with other astronauts too, but she's like my primary. And if it's something fun or and especially art focused, then we do it together.
You had a recent encounter with a king.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
true?
This is true. Yeah, and I will say, and I'm sure this is true for Nicole as well. Have actually met other monarchs over the years because again, when you work with guys who walk on the moon, you end up rubbing elbows with really like famous people, very high level heads of state, that sort of thing like the Queen of Spain, Sophia, Queen Sophia. I have pictures of her holding my son when he was a baby, and you
Wow.
know Prince Sultan from Saudi Arabia. Like
Mm.
you know, I've met a lot, but this was kind of special because I'd say he's probably the most famous monarch in the world right now, or him and his family. So we did this event in April for Earth Day. And we ended up getting connected with this organization called the Sustainable Markets Initiative, and which encompasses the Astra Carta and the Terra Carta founded by King Charles of England. And so they supported that event, and then afterwards they asked the astronauts to be ambassadors, and they asked me if I would join the Astra Carta Advisory Council. So of course I said yes. It's an honor to be this, you know, on this council that the king founded. But the funny thing is, I will tell you, is that I kept saying, well, will we get to meet the king? And they kept, well, we're not sure, you know, maybe next year when there's a convening, you know, you might get to meet him there. And so when we were coming to London this time, we had had another call, and then I mentioned, they said, well, we could inquire and see if it would be possible. And then there was an event that we were invited to that we knew the king was going to be at. And so we got invited to that. And then I said, but do we still get to meet the king? So I kept saying this, and then they said, no,
You were
sorry,
very
it's not going
persistent.
to happen.
Christina.
Well, but I just, because they were saying, well, we'll ask, we'll try. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, and I
The
wasn't
mistake is
saying it,
saying no.
this was in an email just saying, you had mentioned, so is it possible for us to meet the king? Well, we have a chance to sit down with him. So they kept saying no. And then they came back like, the day before saying urgent, urgent email. And I didn't see it for 2 hours because we were at a museum. And then I came out and then saw that they had said the king would like you to come to Buckingham Palace.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah,
Only for you guys.
just for us, yeah. So
Wow.
it was just a few of us, and then the head of the UK Space Agency and the head of the European Space Agency, and then one of the British astronauts. So I guess there were 8 of us altogether that were there.
What's
But
that
we thought
like?
it,
What's it like?
it was kind of surreal because we knew we were going to Buckingham Palace, but we didn't know if it still was going to be standing there, shake his hand, take a photo, and that would be it. And when we got there, we came inside and then they welcomed us inside. And then we went into this room that was really close to like when you go up the stairs and you're in the palace. And they had a table and or like an oval table and it had like our name placards all the way around. And mine was sitting there, Astronaut Wrangler. And I was like, wow, they printed Astronaut Wrangler. And apparently that's the room he meets the heads of states in. It's the
Wow.
state room.
Hmm.
So we had 30 minutes with him, and they came over to me and said, "Okay, Christina, we're going to introduce you, and then we would like you to explain, what it is you do, and then you can introduce the other people in the room." So it kind of ended up being me kind of chairing the whole meeting, which was really interesting. But you know what struck me the most about it was how kind he was, how kind and how sweet and how sincere he was. And, this was not some formal meeting where you're with somebody and they're not really listening to what you were saying. He was really, really invested.
Mm.
And he really cared about what we had to say and what we offered, and very knowledgeable. So I was heartened by that too, because that's what we wanted to know. What do you want to accomplish with this? And
Mm.
he shared this with us, and we said we would like to help him as much. I mean, basically, the Astra Carta is meant to have sustainability in space. And we said, we believe that we can use space technology to do more to help the planet than you may be aware of. And we'd love to help, guide you to the people that is in our world of space. So what was neat was then after our meeting, we went to the event that they had invited us to, and he was there with Prince William. And so Prince William left right away, but he came down and was shaking hands with people. And we stood kind of in line. And then when he saw us, he was like, "Oh, you're here." And he was so happy and he recognized us. And so I have videos of like him talking to me. And he basically was just saying, "Look, I really mean this. I really want to make an impact." And I said, "We mean it too." And he goes, "Well, I want to do something." And I said, "We do too. We're doers." And so it was quite lovely. And the nice thing I will say is the next day, the CEO of his, organization that I'm on the council for said that he was told her that he saw us, that he was really happy to see us again at the event, and that we really lifted his spirits. And that to me too, it just means a lot, that he could see that we were sincere. So.
Does this
And you
mean
know
a
what?
second meeting?
Yeah, I think we're gonna see
A
him
few
again
more?
sometime after the new year.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think, he will remember us. It won't be like a thing where you meet someone and they just don't remember who you
Hmm.
are. I mean, I think that meeting had enough substance and enough of us speaking that I
Yes.
do believe that this wasn't just a courtesy meeting.
Hmm.
Yeah. It was lovely. And it was surreal all at the same time. But I think what I really was struck by is, he's a human.
Hmm.
He's a human who has hopes and dreams too. And, we're there to hopefully help him fulfill some of those. He said, "I really hope we can accomplish some of these things before I die." And Barbara, our friend Barbara, who was with us, was like, "We don't want you to die. You don't have to die to accomplish them, you know." So, and I was asking, do I need to curtsy? I didn't curtsy, no. So I think, that it
So you
didn't
don't
say
have
we
to
were
do that.
required to curtsy. Yeah.
So you don't have to do that?
I don't know. I mean, I figured someone would tell us when we got in there if we were
Hmm.
supposed to do anything,
So
but nobody really briefed us. So I was just told, don't put your hand out, let him, offer his hand
Okay.
and then you can
I
shake it.
see.
So that's what we did. Yeah.
That's so
Amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You
Christina,
have,
what would you tell your 8-year-old self after
Wow.
what you've been through?
I would say probably to my 8-year-old self, like, yeah, I'm doing everything that you were hoping to do. I mean, it's funny. We have this shared desire to travel and meet lots of cultures and different people and see different places. And, I've been to all 7 continents twice, been to 58 countries, but I still have a lot more to go. Still a lot more to do. So, and I think, so I have an 11-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. And, they've been along for this ride, That's a whole other story
Yeah.
altogether because I got to bring both kids with me for the first year of their life all over the world. And they don't remember it. They were babies, but I have photos of all the different people that held them and I
Mhm.
have to admit, sometimes I don't know how I did it. I
Wow.
don't know how
If
I
if
brought
you
kids
if I
home.
if I would ask you a question, what message would you give for our audience, humanity, women, or what message would you give to the world right now after everything you've been through? You have manifested a lot of things. What would you say?
I would say don't give up on the things that you believe matter. That's
Mm-hmm.
where I think the aim higher message comes back because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people think they have to settle for the way things are. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think you have to settle. And I mean, aim higher is not about anything in particular. It's more so a mindset of like, you don't have to be stuck in a situation. You can
Mm-hmm.
find a way. And so I guess I would say that for the world too, because we are going through a very interesting time right now.
Yeah.
And I will say this, when Apollo 11 landed on the moon, we were in a similar state in the world, the
Mm-hmm.
Cold War was going on
mhm.
then, the Vietnam War was
Yeah.
happening. Martin Luther King and
Robert
Robert F. Kennedy
Kennedy.
were
Yeah.
assassinated the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
year. And, the civil rights movement was going on in the
Mm-hmm.
United States. So it's very similar. And we've got upcoming moon missions. Artemis 2, first woman is going to
Mm-hmm.
the moon in February next year. We have some exciting things going on that, and my hope is that will help inspire people and remind them,
Hmm.
that we can still do impossible things, that we can still, find common ground of, the thing I love about space, and I will say this, is when we leave the planet, it's really clear that we're just humans on the same planet and we have to take
Mm-hmm.
care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, Nicole will say this, like when they're in space together, you have to take care of your crewmates. And we've got to find a way to think about each other that way here on
Like
Earth.
him or not, because you're there, you're up there. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
teamwork.
I
because
mean, you have to deal with it. Yeah.
when you're in space, you have to help each other
Yeah.
survive. You
Mhm.
have to have each other's back,
Mhm.
and we have to, I was talking to someone recently about I don't agree with these other people. I said, yeah, but in general, you think they're good people though, right? Like if you get off of certain topics, you deal
Mhm.
with them on a neighbor-day basis. What do you think of that person? Oh no, I like that person. So I think we have to find that again too.
Mhm.
Yes.
Find a way to,
Common ground.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's what I like about space. People don't give up. You don't give up. You have to work together with a lot of people on a common goal.
Mhm.
And it's this sense of curiosity and this willingness to keep trying that I really, really admire about space.
yeah,
And when you think about it, when you start working with someone that you think you're not going to get along with, and then it changes, because you find out that that person has your back and you have their back, and just working together, I think it just opens up a new door for teamwork and friendship and what Nicole does is incredibly inspiring, and what you're doing is incredibly inspiring. And you work a lot with children.
I'm just a big kid, so kids
Yeah,
recognize
yeah,
this in me right away, and we get along really well. So
mhm.
people who don't know I'm one of 10 kids and that I'm a mother, and then they see me with kids, sometimes they're like, "Wow, you really like kids." I'm like, "Well, I am a big kid, and I really have the spirit of a kid still." Actually, I have a friend named Rodrigo. I don't know if Lolly has met him
I
yet.
met him. I met him in London. Yeah.
He's Brazilian, and he's always like, "I want you to stand there and look like the powerful woman that you are." He wants me to be serious and cross my arms and like give like this serious, badass woman look. And I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't keep a straight face. And Lolly knows this too. Almost every photo, I've got my arms out and my mouth is
No,
wide and I'm
you
smiling and
you have the collection of all of the jumps everywhere. It's so fun.
I just don't know how not to be that way. But I've had some people, people who've hired me and they're like, we think you're doing okay.
It's
Because
probably
ultimately,
from being on stage too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
From
mean, that of course has helped me a lot. But
mhm.
but yeah, I mean, the funny thing is working with kids, yeah, it's not, some people don't like kids, so maybe they don't like working with kids because kids can be annoying,
Yeah. You need a lot of
But
patience.
you have to be
Mhm.
kind of patient. But I also
Yeah.
think that if you just relate to them, on their level too, kids are great, and sometimes I'd rather be with kids than a lot of adults.
Well, they're
Yeah.
more
It happens.
authentic, and they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Kids will tell you. Oh, how can people get a hold of you? Is that something that they can do or reach you if they have
Yeah. As a
questions?
matter of fact, people find me all the time, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I mean, honestly, I have met people in the airport sometimes, and I'll say, well, just look for Astronaut Wrangler, just Google that. I'm the only one in the
Mm,
world. And they always find me. It's not hard to find me, actually,
okay.
because I do have the handles of Astronaut Wrangler. But Space for a Better World, like if they email through that website, it all comes to me. And it's amazing how many people find me on LinkedIn. I mean, purposeentertainment.com, and I have my own website,
Uh-huh.
christinakorp.com as well. So, I mean, I'm not really that hard to find if you
Mm.
know
Well,
where
I'll
to
put it
look
in the
for me.
description.
Just look for Astronaut Wrangler. It's easier. For
Okay.
me.
When you talk about your childhood dreams to now, you've done it.
Yeah.
You've
Well, I'm
accomplished
still
it.
doing it. I
You're
still
still
have
doing it,
dreams.
and you still have a long ways to go.
I
But
mean, there's so many things that I want to do, but I will tell you the other thing is try things that you're scared of. And I
mhm,
know lots of people would say that, but I
mhm.
became a scuba diver 3 years ago and I was terrified of the water. And
Wow.
now I'm hooked. I love it. And
Wow.
so when you can overcome, and that was my greatest fear was being
Uh-huh.
underwater. And now I can do it. And it's kind of every time I go down under 60 feet underwater. I'm kind of even amazed at myself. Like that's one thing I would say, like to little girl, Christina is like, you never thought you'd be able to do this.
Wow.
Now you're
Wow.
scuba diving and you swim with lots of turtles and sharks and things like that. It's amazing. So
Thank you, Christina. Thank you.
no, it's nice to
And we'll
meet you,
see you
ladies.
again. We'll see
Let's go
Thank
to let's
you.
go to
hopefully in
Ecuador.
person.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
Galapagos.
We have to plan it,
Galapagos.
definitely.
All
You have
right.
to tell me and I'll make everything ready for you
Ana
guys.
Maria will make it happen, Christina.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Ciao. Bye. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye.